Hello, my name is Bastian Badel. I'm one of the two managing partners from Straight One. And today I would like to talk with you about segmentation and about how we can make segmentations more actionable by using the insights from behavioral economics. And maybe to start, why do we do segmentation? And actually, we do them a lot more often. And I think not only we do them more often, the reason is probably because more and more companies recognize that although we would like to target every customer individually, that's not yet possible. And then good old segmentation is interesting again. But it's not really good old segmentation, because segmentations in the past were often interesting, but very difficult to really take action on it. Because finally, that's what it's all about. And you want to make your marketing approach, your product development or sales approach more effective, more powerful. And that's where behavioral economics can help. So if we build segments, not so much only about attitudes and interests and so on, but also based on how people decide, then will become, as you will see in a minute, a lot easier to really develop targeted interventions or targeted communications. For example, in finance, we see that people differ in the way how we handle risk. Yeah? Generally, we have the risk aversity effect. But on the other hand, we have also, for example, if you imagine you have saved some money or you want to save money, and certainly everybody wants to have this money grow at least a little bit. And certainly everybody do not want to lose his money. Yeah? And so this is, a typical situation where we humans have two interests that conflict with each other. Because we can't have 100% security and on the other hand have a really fast-growing portfolio of assets. Yeah? And this goes together with a concept called regulatory focus. Which means that people that tend more to the certainty view, that are more loss-averse, try to avoid risk more stronger. They look different and they need a different language than those people who more are focused on the gain side, who more look for new opportunities. And this means if we can separate these people, we already, for example, very clearly know how we can talk to these people. Because the one group, the more loss-averse people, their main interest or main need is to secure. So we need words that give them a good feeling, that give them a feeling of security. Also, we need, for example, avoid complexity. Because complexity has a lot of newish, unknown topics in it, and that makes also grow the impression of risk. On the other hand, with the other target group is totally different. We want stimulation, we want new opportunities, we want growth. So you see, you can't target both groups with one languages and also not with one product. Although maybe technically it might be the same in the background, maybe both buy an ETF, but in a totally different context, a different product shell, and also a different story. And what we do at Straight One is that we for every category, every business, look what are the main dimensions that make differences in how people decide. And so for finance, it's one of more that there are, is for example this topic of loss aversion versus gain interest. Another topic is, for example, present bias. Present bias, just to explain it very shortly, is basically a phenomenon that is very inherent to us humans and means that, or has the cause in the fact that we humans can feel things, topics, experiences that are in the now or in the near future a lot better, a lot more intensive than topics in the future. So for example, we can very good feel now how it's too nice to have a great fast car, but it's more difficult to feel what the negative impact of this car is in the future. And so our needs in the now wins over those in the future. And that's, for example, also very typical with finance. Do I want to buy this new bicycle now, or will I save first and buy it later? And that's, for example, where people differ very much. By the way, also, when you think of other categories, this is very much linked to procrastination, for example. Yeah? Those people who live more in the now, or are more driven by their feelings and emotions that we experience in the now and cannot so strongly regulate them with their system too, are more, for example, in certain contexts, more likely to procrastinate. So we need to look to intervention to make them, for example, start training or start living a healthy life or whatever. Yeah. And for example, often that can be done by referring to other needs. For example, we see that people differ very much in their needs to connection, so to belong to a certain group, a certain peer group, and on the other hand, feeling unique, feeling significant, so expressing and feeling or their individuality. And people are quite different in that. For example, with doctors, we see that very often. We have on the one hand, all doctors want the best for their patients. That's the case. But the motivation that comes with that is different. On the one hand, you have those who look more for significance, who say, hey, I am the expert. I really get energy from being so smart and applying the newest medical approaches and so on. On the other hand, you have people who get their energy from dealing with and working with other people and helping other people. So that's more the communication, the relation between other people that gives them energy and motivates them to do their job. And our research shows that again correlates with how open people are for innovation. So those people who are looking for significance, in a way, almost tend to have innovation bias. So they are very open to new things and want to try out for things. On the other hand, those people who are more towards connection, probably one reason is also that connection is in our brains very much linked also to certainty, security, and such dimensions. Those people tend more to have, for example, status quo bias. So they do not want to change a lot. And that again means we need to talk to these people very differently. For those people who look more to connection, are status quo bias driven, here we need interventions to break up, for example, current habits, current relations. In order to open a window where we can bring in something new. And then we need, for example, also social references to convince them that it's worthwhile to go this step into the unknown, into the new. And that's different with people who look for significance. Here, often already just because it's new, it's interesting. And we have a look at it. Yeah, so the channels are always open, or a lot more often open. So you see, if we link this decision-making pattern and these basics on the shortcuts people use to a certain context, it becomes a lot more easier also to link that to possible communication approaches or product developments and things like that. And that's a topic we have done a lot of research and a lot of studies in finance, but also healthcare and, for example, also travel. And where we really saw and got the feedback from our customers that they say, hey, now I know what to do. Before that, I had really a nice, interesting segmentation, but now I know how to work with it. And especially researchers come back to us and say, hey, we get real positive feedback from our internal customers because we now really know how to work with it. And by the way, such a segmentation will also be a very good starting point to foster customer centricity in general. Because when you, in all the researchers, take this segmentation approach with you, yeah, so that you, for all your topics, have a view on it. How do the different segments, the different groups that are in my focus, certainly, how do they relate to these topics? That helps your organization to learn something about the customer step by step, but also to memorize that better, because they can always link it with something they already know, which is the name of a certain segment. So it's a bit like branding, where you also build a brand to link it with stories, to link it with image dimensions and so on. And so it is a really good starting point, for a lot of companies also to really, get a next step ahead in customer focus. It would be a pleasure if I could talk with you a bit more and maybe more in a dialogue than just from one side. So if this sounds interesting to you and you would like to know more or like to see how it could work out for your company, it would be really nice if we can have a chat on that. So you're more than welcome to reach out to us, and I look forward to talk to you. Thank you very much.